I like to record myself sometimes when I'm doing demos. I'm not being vain, y'all. I just need to make sure I'm getting it right. So today I'm going to practice blending. I'm going to show you how I tend to mix my paints when I'm in the studio. I'm a little different. I don't do anything that's really traditional. I did go to art school, so I learned about chiaroscuro, plein air, atelier, all that, all the terms, right? And then I forgot it after I left. So don't ask me for any definitions. So today I figured the best way for me to show how I like to blend on canvas is to do clouds, because clouds can be whatever they want to be. They take whatever shape they want. They have all these different layers to them. There's a lot of lights and darks involved. I'm going to start off in black and white, and then I'm going to go more into color and just kind of show how I build stuff up. So I'll begin by drawing with my paintbrush. Let me know if you can't hear me. I know I talk a little quiet sometimes, so just tell me to speak up. It's all right. You can yell at me. I like to begin by comparing my colors to a grayscale. And I'm painting in acrylic, by the way. So using that grayscale, that's usually how I'm going to choose my lights, my midtones, and my shadows. But first I need to put the image out there just a little bit. I like to start with a basic sketch. Usually my images don't ever come out how I plan them, so I tend to improvise a little bit when I'm in the studio. Something about these nimbus clouds that just really kind of draw me in. I like the shape of them. There's just a lot of activity there in the shapes of these clouds. A lot of
All you
different
people over
layers
there
you
on
can get
that
to there.
side of the room could come over here and sit where you could see better. All right. Okay.
So again, like I said, I start really basic. Sometimes I'll take a pencil and I'll do it the right way and I'll draw it. I'm just telling myself where my midtones are. So, I started off with these circular shapes, and that's on purpose because I want to go from light to dark, and I'm looking at spheres, right? So, those of you who've taken the drawing classes and understand shading, you get how light hits the sphere and goes from light to dark as you go further away from the light, and so on and so forth. So, I need to tell myself, where's the light hitting? Where is it not? And I need to find little places where I can maybe pull out some more of the shadows and maybe make it a little more dramatic for myself later on. And so naturally, the next color I'm going to grab is black. So I get some of this in here. And for those of you painters in the room, how often do you find yourself using the same brushes even though you have a million of them? I have like easily 30 brushes down here. You probably know someone use 3. You just, you find the tool for the job and you just get a feel for it. You just get used to it. And that's how I am when I paint. I have some expensive brushes. I have some cheap brushes. I got some kind of mid-level brushes. Guess which ones I use the most of? The cheap ones, right? You realize as an artist, you don't have to spend the big bucks on everything. I don't go cheap on paint. I'll never go cheap on the paint because that actually shows in the quality of the image. But yeah, so I find myself using the same 2 to 3 brushes. Cheap brushes I get at Jerry's Artorama, which isn't too far from where I live. And then I have all the fancy ones to show off when I do demos and I do live painting. I'm going with the black. Use another one of my brushes. I like the synthetic brushes. Just something about the feel on the canvas, especially when they're nice and soft. Not as soft as a watercolor brush, but you don't want to be too rough like a bristle brush either. Like when you're painting with certain oil paints, because I like to blend. So I'm gonna go back here, pull out some of these shadows. Fortunately, some of this paint is still wet, so it'll be a little easier for me to blend. And I just go right there on the canvas.
Do you ever use an extender or do you just use water?
Oh, I like to use the extender. I have a, yeah, this is my retarder right here. This is a Liquitex product. I always use an extender with the acrylics because it dries too fast sometimes, and because I like to blend so much, I need that little extra few minutes. It really makes a big difference. But I'm not patient, so I don't do oil. Although I do prefer the look of an oil painting, it just has a different feel. It has a nice smoothness to it that I have yet to achieve with acrylics. But it's the drying time. I want to see my painting develop. I want to, get it over with. And then when I mess up, I don't want to have to sit there and look at it for 3 days because I need the paint to dry. So, very simple. Going from light to dark. Lay out your highlights first. Figure out where your midtone should go. And pull out that black shadow. Now, obviously, in real life, the clouds don't go black, right? But this is my painting. I'm gonna do what I want. So, I've done this with metallics. I've done this with really bright, vibrant colors. I'm actually gonna move into color in a minute. I just wanted to kind of get this started a little.
Do you have a favorite brand of acrylic?
Yes, I am, because I used to work in an art supply store. I'm faithful to Liquitex and Golden, but then I found this other brand, Nova Color. I got a bunch of their metallics because I wanted to play with them, and I really enjoy this. I think this is a pretty good brand so far. I haven't tried their regular colors yet, though, so
What
don't
is
quote
it
me on
again?
that. Nova Color.
No.
Mhm. Nova Color. But I enjoy their metallics. They're, the metallics at least, they're pretty much similar quality to what I'm used to with the Golden acrylics and the Liquitex.
Is the gold gold?
Hmm?
Is it?
You mean is it like real gold or like a gold leaf kind of thing?
When you try to paint gold, sometimes you don't. Paint just doesn't come out gold.
Oh. I think sometimes it's about what you have underneath it as well, because I find that the metallics, the especially iridescents, they tend to be really like transparent.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're putting a transparent layer over something. So if you don't get your colors right underneath, then it's gonna shift it a little bit.
Gotcha.
So speaking of color, since you brought it up, take the gold out. We'll play with gold, and let's see what else I got here. I brought a few metallics with me. I actually have 2 golds here, so I'm gonna use both of them. I'll still keep my black, and then I have this kind of turquoisey metallic color. You guys can see that. So I'll stick to. I have a white iridescent as well. I'll use that. So I'll go to the metallics now. Same idea, light to dark. You see what I mean with it being a little more transparent using the iridescent white. You can see a lot of that black underneath. Then I'm going to go straight to the gold. Now with this, because I'm painting something that, light would normally pass through, I don't mind seeing the black underneath, but I would have to do a few layers to really make it more solid. I also have a habit of not throwing away my brushes. They become mixers after a while, so just a little thing I do there. So I'm adding the darker gold in here because I need something that's a little closer to the gray that I was using, and I'm gonna actually mix that in there. I like it to have a little bit of a metallic sheen there, but I also want it to be more opaque as I get down into my shadow.
Do you tone your canvas according to subject matter? Do you like to work on black? Or?
Lately, I've been trying the black canvases. It's kind of fun. I have these paints by Golden called Interference. I don't know if they still make them or not, but I came across them when I was working in the art supply store, and they have a different effect depending on the surface color that you're working on. So if it's a darker color, then you'll see it like, kind of like how you see the gold here. But if it's a lighter color and you put it over something, it'll have kind of a sheen to it. So depending on the angle you look at it, you'll see the color, or it'll just have like a little metallicness to it. So I like those colors a lot. I did a full painting in all interference colors before, and I had a lot of fun with that. And then there's another color that Golden makes called Micaceous Iron Oxide, and it's basically metallic black.
Ooh, that sounds
And
nice.
that's
Yeah.
that's a real cool one to play with. And what they do is they have a black base, and then they put mica chips into it,
Ooh.
and that gives it the metallic feeling. So I want to go in with this little blue here, that little turquoise, and you'll see that I have a lot more fun when I'm playing with the colors. I tend to get a little more adventurous.
Not to jump ahead, but do you seal your paintings or something? Or?
I do. I actually use the Liquitex varnish. They used to have a gloss medium in varnish, but I haven't seen it in a while. I think they may have discontinued that. But my favorite is the Liquitex satin varnish, and I use that on all of my paintings as like a final finish. But I'll put a layer of either a matte medium or a matte varnish over my acrylic piece so I can photograph it, because acrylic by itself has kind of a satin sheen to it already. It reflects some light, and depending on the color that you're using, it can be more shinier than others. So to kind of eliminate that without having to deal with the glare from the lights and all that, I put the matte over it, photograph my piece, and then I go over with the satin varnish, and that's kind of like I guess you say my signature finish, if you will.
Does it dull the metallics at all?
Not at all. So what I find is these varnishes, they're really good quality, and they'll actually make the metallics pop a little bit more. And it doesn't lose the effects of having the metallic look either. I haven't had a problem at all with the varnishes, to be honest. Just keep in mind you don't want to overdo it with the layers of the varnish, because then you start to see more streaks, and it with matte varnish, if you put too many coats of the matte varnish over your piece, you'll start to dull the painting a little bit. So just be mindful of that, unless that's the effect that you're looking for in your work. So I'm just going back over what I was painting earlier with the iridescent white, adding a little bit of the titanium white in there as well, and just blending right on the canvas.
Do you exhibit anywhere regularly?
I'm actually on exhibit right now at Parkville Art Gallery on Park Street in Hartford. We just had our opening last Thursday. The gallery's it's open Tuesday through Saturday, I believe, until like 7 p.m. It's a really nice gallery. It's about 5,000 square feet. There's, I believe, 9 of us on display right now. And they just opened up in the fall, so it's a really
It's
new
by
space.
the hospital, right?
Not too far from the hospital.
Okay.
Not too far. And then I'll be in a few smaller shows here and there throughout the remainder of the year.
And you obviously post those online, right?
Yeah, I'm posting all the time. So I am on Facebook. For those of you who have Facebook, it's Dre B Painting. That's DER, the letter B, period, painting, no G at the end. I'm always posting artwork or making some kind of statement on there, so I hope you're not easily offended. 'Cause I'm gonna be me. And then it's the same on Instagram. If you have an Instagram, it's Dre B Painting, all one word.
Website?
My website is andrerochester.com. So very simple, just my full name.com. I got a whole portfolio on there. You'll see some of my murals. I also have some photography on there as well.
There's a link to that on our Facebook page.
And as you can see, I have a habit of wiping my brushes on myself. The apron is not for looks. It's to keep myself from messing up my good clothes. So I started off with these spherical shapes, but I'm gonna let this kind of take on a life of its own. It's gonna become whatever it's gonna become as I paint it. I probably will finish this in my studio, and make it a real painting.
Oh, and you'll
kinda-
send-
I'm
and
kind of
then-
enjoying
And
it.
then you'll send me a picture.
Yeah, definitely.
What kind of a size of a brush are you using here? 2, 3?
This is a Filbert's, and the size is not on here. It looks like it wore off.
You used it too much, so it disappeared.
I have definitely rubbed the number off of this brush. It's not even on the price sticker. Let's see if there's something I can compare it to. This is about the same size. It's an 8.
A what?
It's an 8. Yeah, it's a size 8.
Okay.
Also, keeping in mind different brushes, you know, the brands, they have different, they fluctuate a little bit with the size. But yeah, this one, the nearest comparable one I have is an 8. Filberts are actually my favorite brush because they're so versatile. You can get in there, you can get the curvy shapes, you can draw a little bit with it. You can blend nicely with it if it's nice and soft. I tend not to use the round brushes as much unless I'm like trying to actually draw with the brush. So I'm gonna leave that alone for now. I might revisit that a little later. I'm gonna go into some regular colors now. So, of course, I've taken color theory and all that in school, but I really didn't learn color that way. I learned from looking at graffiti. And what I like about graffiti artists is they take colors that look like they don't belong together and they make something really beautiful out of it. It's like magic. You can take the 3 ugliest colors you can find, and then there's something about how they blend with that spray can that'll just show you a whole different way to paint. So I brought some of my more vibrant colors. Some of these are kind of mixed. Some of them are fresh out the tube. I find myself having my favorites though. Like for instance, the Liquitex, what is it? Medium yellow AZO. I like that yellow a lot. That's basically this yellow here. It's a nice warm yellow. I'm just drawn to it. And then there's it's like a medium green color that Liquitex makes as well. This one here.
What body paint is that? What body?
This is a heavy body acrylic.
Heavy body.
And then, although I don't actually have that color with me, I tend to gravitate towards phthalo blue. the green shade, because I like mixing these like electric blue colors, and I get it every time. Every time. So I just kind of follow what works for me. So I started with the yellow, but I am going to put some white here at the top because I want it to be just a little bit brighter. But not too much. Because I'm doing it really just to blend the yellow. So I find that although I'm drawn to the old masters like the Rembrandts and Caravaggios and all of them, I paint nothing like them. But I admire, especially with Caravaggio, the use of light in their work. And so I tend to be drawn to more like high contrast type of imagery, especially when I'm painting certain subjects. That just the ability to do storytelling with that and to really draw people in, but also get a powerful message across is something that I gravitate towards, because I usually like to make statements with a lot of my work. And so, same idea. Now, this whole time, I've been comparing my colors to what I did over here with my white, gray, and black. I'm comparing every color, like my yellow, for instance, how close to white is that? My green and my blue, how close to the gray that I think it should be would that be? And then I'm going to pull out a purple in a minute. Same idea. How close to black am I getting? I just like to have fun with the paint. Just go in and, do whatever. As long as I have a relatively good range between my highlight, midtones, and my shadows, pretty much any color is fair game when I'm painting. On my website, you'll see some portraits that I've done where it's kind of like a rainbow colored palette that I use for faces. Now those I have a lot of fun with because I'm literally pulling out as many colors as I can out of my box and just going crazy with it. But again, comparing all of my colors to that grayscale as I make my selections. And most of the time, even with the portraits, I'm mixing right on the canvas. There's something about just, that freedom of just doing that on canvas and letting the painting just kind of develop into whatever it's going to become. Some people find it nerve-wracking. I think it's a bit meditative. Kind of allows me to just let go,
So when I read this article about you,
Mm-hmm.
I see lots of things about school and all the things, but it doesn't tell me what you do. What did you do when you got out of school? Did you have a job?
When I got out of school, the first time, yes and no. So when I first left UConn, I owed a lot of money, so I couldn't pay for school. So I had to take some time off, about 7 years to be exact. So within that 7 years, of course, life happens. You go through things. And then I got a chance, as I was getting on my feet and really, figuring out this adulting thing, which, for some of us, it takes long. I finally got a job that allowed me to, pretty much have enough money to get myself back into school and to have my own studio space and to like really, kind of focus more on finishing the degree, but also making sure I can pay my bills and buy art supplies. And so that comfort that came with that really inspired me to go back into school.
And what was that job?
I worked at a factory that made engine brakes for large diesel engines. It's called Jake Brake.
Jake Brake,
Mhm.
okay.
I was there for almost 4 years, I believe. And so I started off in the machine shop. The funny thing about that job is, prior to my interview, I didn't even know what CNC meant. True story, no clue. All I know is I need a job, and I'm going to show up in a suit and tie to this messy factory, and they're going to hire me. And that was the plan. So the plan worked, and then I had to figure out what the hell I was doing. I didn't break too many things. In fact, I got a little bored with being in the manufacturing line, so my mind is all over the place. I'm an artist. I'm always thinking about stuff. I always want to do stuff and work with my hands. So they had this other position that gave me a little more freedom to kind of roam around and be more active. And it was called flow maintenance, but it's basically the guy in the plant who sets up the machines and drives the fork trucks and moves the shipments around back and forth and all that stuff, right? So I did that job for a little bit. Then there was a layoff, and me being a low man on the totem pole in this union shop, I found my name on that list for layoffs every week for about 3 months. So I'm on the verge of having a stroke because I'm stressed out. I finally got to a point where I was comfortable, and here I am with my job at risk, and I can't do anything about it. So I applied for another job I wasn't qualified for. And that was actually a dual interview. It was for 2 positions I wasn't qualified for because I'm a glutton for punishment. I like doing stuff that I probably shouldn't. So one job was internal quality auditor. The other job was a warranty specialist. And because I did have some college experience and I've given a few presentations in my day at that point, I felt comfortable with doing the panel interview that was required. And I interviewed for both jobs at the same time. I got hired as the internal quality auditor, where I found myself yet again having to learn a job from scratch and not knowing anything about it. Other than if things mess up, it's poor quality. That's it. So I learned about standards. I learned about comparing standards to what you do in the shop. I learned about making sure that folks are following the instructions, but also when you deviate from the instructions, there's probably something wrong with the process. Now you gotta fix it. And so,
The instructions.
yeah, the instructions in the process. So if the instructions don't match what you're doing, then there's a failure somewhere. People don't go to work and not want to do their job the right way because they want to keep their job, especially in manufacturing. So you never blame the person. You blame the process. Because most likely that person that's doing that process every single day and you're not, they probably know something you don't. So because I had a lot of experience on the shop floor at that point with getting to know people, and they saw me around driving a fork truck and fixing up their machines and all that. I was able to be a bit more active in the manufacturing floor than some of my colleagues who were on the salary side of the business. And so as I'm learning this auditing job, I'm going all over the place. I'm talking to the people in the offices just as much as I'm talking to the people who are assembling the parts and all that stuff. So everybody's getting to know me. And so doing that job was fun in that regard because I got to know so many people. I got to interact so much. But I also got to learn a lot. And I apply a lot of what I learned to the way that I coach younger artists. You got to look at what you're doing and figure out why it's not working out. Or You recognize the thing that you're doing that's working out, and you try to duplicate it. Can you repeat that process? Can you repeat what you're doing to make it work elsewhere in your business or in life? And so I was able to return to school with that internal quality auditor job. And I ran into another obstacle with UConn. So I had some classes that were required. They were writing courses. Only thing is, they were only offered in the fall. I needed 2 of them, and they gave preference to people who were on campus. So it was either going to take me 3 years to finish the 1 semester worth of classes that I had to take to get my degree, and get the BFA, and all the bragging rights that come with that, or I find an online program that focuses on helping people with finishing their degrees. And Charter Oak State College happens to be that program. I was able to finish with a BA in studio art within 2 semesters. I did not have those requirements that I needed with UConn, but I did most of my degree already, so I didn't have to worry about figuring out where am I going to take these art classes to get my degree. Just went to Charter Oak. I took the the general education requirements that I needed, finished with my BA, and then another opportunity came, and I went to Pratt & Whitney to be around more engineers and more stuff I didn't know about. So I started there in their procedures department, and then eventually I became an internal quality auditor there as well. And then this little voice in my head, while I'm working in the continuous improvement department, just kept getting louder and louder, telling me I need to work on my exit strategy because I'm not in the place where I belong. And then I got a gig that paid me enough money to really start making that plan. I actually got a gig to curate an online conference, basically an online summit. This is during the pandemic, during COVID. So everybody's on quarantine and everything had to go virtual. So I curated an online gallery, 4 panel discussions, a keynote, and I believe it was like 3 performances or something like that. And they paid me half the money I needed to quit my job. I did this thing. I'd never done anything like that before. I'd never planned like a full day event like this. But the person believed in me. This is somebody who had invited me to a few events that they were working on. And I spoke on a panel for them and stuff. So we were familiar with each other. She offered me this opportunity. So, make a long story short, I started saving my money. And I had a 1-year plan. That 1 year turned into 6 months, and I left corporate America, hopefully for good. On New Year's Eve, 2021, January 1st, 2022, I embarked on this journey to truly be full-time in the arts. Now, I am not a full-time artist. I say I'm a full-time arts professional, because I do a lot of different things that are art related, including painting. But to be truthful to myself and to truly own all parts of who I am, because I love it all, professional in the arts. I've done teaching art workshops, I've done speaking engagements to talk about various subjects around art and mental health, art and activism, art as a tool for healing, and so on and so forth. I've also led public arts projects, for instance, on Albany Avenue in Hartford. It's one of our main corridors. I curated the street. And what I mean by that is I helped the city develop a paid opportunity for artists to create work that would be printed and wrapped around bus shelters and the utility boxes, near stoplights, all along the street. 30 artists were paid to create designs. And the cool thing about this is the work was printed and wrapped, so what we paid them for was the license to use the work. They got to keep the originals, and they can sell the originals, they can make their money off of those, and do whatever they want with the originals. It's really just the right to reproduce it for that purpose. So these artists now have their work all along this street, Some of them are still in good condition. This is a few years ago, and you let something sit too long, people start marking it up. So that happened, but that project was really special for me because it wasn't just about me and the bragging rights of having done it. It was about creating an opportunity for my peers, and that kind of set things in motion for me to be recognized as more of a, I guess you can say, an arts leader or arts ambassador for the city of Hartford. Since then, I've become the program director for an organization called the 224 EcoSpace, where I curate art shows. I also run a fellowship for artists, and I plan arts-related events. The fellowship is cool. It's called Artists of Color Accelerate Fellowship. We take 10 artists from the greater Hartford area. We give them entrepreneur training, and we set them up to be able to partner with a local arts institution like the Wadsworth Athenaeum, the Bushnell Theater, Theater Works. I don't know if you heard about Theater Works, but they're a phenomenal organization. And a few others, like the Harriet Beecher Stowe Center, now known as the Stowe Center for Literary Activism. And we pair them with these organizations so that they can start working, they can start a business relationship, a true partnership. And they do a collaborative project with each other. And it's a catalyst for maybe creating other opportunities for other artists in the area, right? You walk in one door, hopefully you leave it cracked open so somebody can follow you in. I think that, as you succeed, you have an obligation to help others succeed. Doesn't have to be lonely at the top. It's got to let somebody go with you. So I'm a product of that program. I was in the inaugural cohort, and then I was asked to take over as the program director when the CEO of the organization moved on, and she took a bigger job. And so I've been there for 3 years now, running that program and just trying to grow it and improve it and make it the best that it can possibly be.
Was that a Hartford idea, or was that
This is a Hartford thing.
but was it Hartford's idea to get involved with artists, or was it artists' idea to get involved with Hartford?
A little bit of both. So there was a landscape study done by the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. And what it revealed is that there are some systemic barriers that are preventing artists from getting opportunities that they need in an equitable manner. And so 2 ideas came from the meetings that took place to review the data, right? So, artists, they have the complaints. They say they need this, they need that. Well, this time they had to listen because there was statistical proof that folks were not getting fair opportunities. And what the foundation did is they created like an advisory council made up of artists from the local area. So you have Hartford artists who are now advising this foundation, this billion-dollar organization, by the way, on how to address this thing that they've now proven with data. And so the 2 ideas that came from it was the Artists of Color Accelerate Fellowship, and then the Independent Artist Fund, which was a granting fund designed for people who aren't used to getting grants. So a lot of the emerging artists, they weren't, they just weren't experienced. And so filling out grants can be kind of scary. And what the Independent Artist Fund did was they made the process super easy. And they asked for only the main information that you need. Who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your goal? What's the meaning of this project? How is it going to positively affect the community? The Independent Artist Fund has funded so many amazing projects, from films to exhibits to workshops. You name it, it's artsy. They've probably given money to it. And they did 2 cycles that I know of. And a lot of artists have basically jump-started their career with grants up to $20,000. So these are not just small amounts that they're giving away. This is this is real money. And so people have benefited from these efforts. quite a bit, and what I find is that a lot of these organizations don't necessarily, as I said, they're not necessarily discriminating on purpose. Sometimes you just don't know how to engage certain groups. If you're not used to being around a certain demographic, you may not understand what that demographic needs or wants or how they interact amongst each other. And so when you put people in a room and they start to get to know one another, you start realizing that, there's plenty of opportunity to work together. We just haven't figured out the right way to do it. And so with the Artists of Color Accelerate Fellowship, the main rule here with the projects is it has to be mutually agreed upon. So now these folks are sitting down at the table, they're negotiating, they're talking about their ideas, they're exploring each other's missions and visions, and truly getting an understanding of what each other stand for and what they want to accomplish, and finding a place where they can align. So we prepare our fellows to have that conversation. And it's not just about your art, it's about showing up as a professional and understanding what that means in certain settings. We can show up as a professional and have the most amazing artwork and say we're professional artists. But do we know how to do business? Do we know how to handle ourselves in a conference room with people who don't speak the same language as us, meaning non-artists? Are we going to bore them with a conversation about our technique and how we're going to change the world with this composition that we're coming up with? Or are we going to get down to, here's how my work aligns with the work that you do, and this is why you should support what I'm doing? Because I'm going to make you look real good after this. And you got to convince them. They learn how to do that. They learn how to have that conversation. Not to go in and, beg for help or beg for support, but to go in and really say, look, let's collaborate, let's work together in partnership with one another, and let's move the needle forward together. And it has worked. We've had documentaries, we've had workshop series come out of it. These are not just visual artists, these are artists across the full spectrum of the arts. This program has had dancers, they've had poets, they've had authors, painters. Right now we have an installation artist who is amazing. There have been photographers, multimedia artists who work in video and photography and paint and do music. A lot of different talent has come through this program in just the 3 cohorts that we've had. And we've even had people get jobs from being involved in the program. One of our cohort 1 fellows, she got a job working at the Stowe Center. She's a poet. And she's got a workshop series going on right now, 3 years after she participated in the program. Another fellow was hired 2 months into being in the program, managing their content creation at TheaterWorks. He ended up working with them for about a year, and then he went out and went back to doing his own thing. But that was far above and beyond any expectation that we had. We're not asking them to hire anybody. We're just asking folks to do a project and see where it goes, and to nurture a relationship after that. So we've had some very big successes here. I would count myself in that number as well. I not only gained a job out of it and became the program director, but the organization that I was paired with honored me last year with the Spirit of Juneteenth Award, the Amistad Center for Art and Culture. And that recognition, I feel, may not have happened had it not been for them actually knowing me and getting to know who I am and what I do in the community. And I still have a really good relationship with the Amistad Center. I just joined their curatorial committee as a volunteer. And there's some talk of wanting me to join their board, but I'm not really in a rush to join another board, but being able to still work with them, and they're still a partner with us with the fellowship as well. But being able to work with them in multiple capacities has been really cool. And they have a great team there. And of course, because Amistad Center is actually based inside of Wadsworth Athenaeum, I got the opportunity to get to know the Athenaeum. This is the museum where I learned that being a painter is like a real thing. This is where I learned that this dream of mine can actually happen. I decided I wanted to become a painter because of some of the artwork that I saw at the Wadsworth Athenaeum. And I'm happy that, now I have the fortunate opportunity of serving on their board of trustees as a representative for the city of Hartford. I was appointed by the mayor himself. And again, that wouldn't have happened had they not gotten to know me, had they not had an opportunity to sit down with me and have a conversation about what I would like to do, what my goals are. I went from teaching a drawing workshop in their galleries to serving on their board. I was the gala co-chair this year. And I'm also serving on their branding committee. So that's pretty much how I became an artist and how I got to where I am today. I forgot what your original question was. I went on a little tangent there telling my story.
I asked what you did because I've always felt that that what we do after we leave school is part of what makes up the way we paint.
Mm. Well, I think our life experiences are definitely going to make contributions to the way we paint and what we paint. A lot of my work is personal narratives, and although I'm not always depicting myself, I want to make it relatable. So I'm telling my story through these pieces, but sometimes the subject is a woman, sometimes the subject is not even black, sometimes the subject's not even a human, but there's a feeling evoked through the piece. I want you to feel something. Because when you feel something, that means I've connected with you. And then I want you to think about it. I want you to look to the left and the right because there's going to be somebody probably standing with you. And engage that person. Have conversation, right? You feel, you think, you discuss. Hopefully you're going to have some action that comes after that. Might be a date. Might be change. I don't know. But something can come from that experience with the artwork.
Well, I think I always hope that people who look at my artwork at least have something to say about it, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
Because the goal is to make them talk, to get people to think about something other than the normal
Right.
stuff. And I don't really care what they say about it as long as they start talking about it so that I can interact with them.
That's one thing that I think when a lot of people are just beginning, they don't always understand that point. Like, you have to talk about the artwork. If it doesn't make you talk, you probably didn't do it right. If there's no reaction whatsoever, if I haven't like pissed you off or made you really happy, then I haven't done my job. The point of artwork is to make some kind of statement. Sometimes it's about the beauty that's around you. It doesn't have to be something profound,
Right.
but you gotta feel something. If there's nothing, you have no reaction, then maybe I didn't succeed at that painting. I need to go back and revisit some things that I put in there, because if there was a message in there, I didn't convey it. If there was a particular reaction that I was looking for and I got none, that to me is a failure. But if you're angry at me, by all means, please be angry. If you're really happy with what you see, by all means, please be very happy. Are you talking with people? Are you engaging one another? Is there a conversation around the subject that you've seen in the work? That to me is where success is when I make a painting. So I'm starting to blend all three of my little color schemes here because I want to make this look a little bit more put together. But same technique applies. I'm comparing everything to my grayscale. If it falls,
in your selections of what you now use in color, do you have like a blue day or a gold day? Is like how you're feeling in the morning? What combinations you want to use?
It's not necessarily about how I'm feeling during that day to paint in a certain color. I don't do much monochromatic work. It's either like a lot of color or it may be kind of muted. Like I have some pieces where they're all metallics for the most part, but it's kind of like it's a really subdued kind of color palette. And for those tend to be more spiritual pieces. For the stuff that's really vibrant and kind of in your face, I'm purposely trying to capture your attention with the color, but I really want to evoke something in you when you see it. I actually did a family portrait like that. I think it's on my website. I may have taken it down. I'm not sure. But I did a family portrait like that, and the point was to kind of capture the vibrance of the family. Like they were very energetic people, and the kids. I wanted to capture the kids, so I kind of played off of that. But I don't typically know what colors I'm going to use when I go in the studio. To be honest, if I'm starting something new, I'll have an idea of what I want it to look like, and then I like to start as basic as possible and let it kind of blossom into whatever it's going to be. I found out very early that anytime I draw something out and think that's what my painting is going to look like at the end, I'm going to be really mad because it never turns out to be the thing that I planned it to be.
They have a life of their own.
They really do, and you got to let them live. You gotta let the painting live and let it do whatever it's gonna do and become whatever it's gonna become. And I find that the art making process, for me at least, is a lot easier that way when I can just let go and let it be what it's gonna become. I still stick to my theme. I still do that, but as for what the finished product looks like, I mean, that's kind of up in the air. I'll know when it's done because I let the painting tell me it's done. Any more questions?
What kind of white did you use to get it that white?
Oh, this is a titanium white.
Okay,
Yeah.
chocolate black, what,
Just,
liquid tech?
just a simple titanium white. The brand is Liquid
The
Tex.
heavy? The heavy
Yeah. These are all heavy body that I use. I don't play too much with like the soft body acrylics unless I feel like there's a little more like I want to do washes. I'll use a soft body for that, and then I'll probably dilute it a little bit more with something like a glazing medium or something like that. Like drips and splatters and stuff like that. Of course, you use a soft body for. Liquitex used to have like this what is it, extra heavy body acrylic, which was kind of like you were painting with molding paste. It was colored. I don't know if they make that anymore. It wasn't really a popular product when we were selling it in that store. But yeah, the heavy body acrylic, just the regular traditional or artist quality acrylics I'll use. Again, I'm using Liquitex and Golden most of the time. Every now and then I may venture off and try a new brand. Like for instance, you got Nova Color here. Then there's another brand out there made by an artist named Stuart Simple, called Culture Hustle is his business name, and he makes these paints. He's kind of funny with his marketing and his promotion. So, you familiar with Anish Kapoor and Vanessa Black? You ever heard that term? So Vanessa Black is supposed to be the blackest black ever. And Anish Kapoor, who's like this billionaire artist, he made it so nobody can use it. He's trademarked it, and you can actually get sued if you try to use Vanessa Black. So what Stuart Simple did, he tried to replicate it. He got pretty close. He's got a black 2.0, 3.0. I think, yeah, he just released a 4.0. It gets darker and darker and darker. I don't know how he's doing this, but this paint doesn't reflect any light. And it's really is the darkest paint that I've seen. And then, of course, because he has the darkest black ever, he's gonna have the whitest white. And sure enough, the whitest white is like really, really bright. It doesn't reflect light. It still has a matte finish, but I have yet to find another white that gets to that level of brightness. And then he has, other things. He's really gimmicky, but the paint is actually pretty good, so I keep buying it. He's got like these really vibrant yellows and greens. He's got a pink. Yves Klein, he made a blue, and he made pieces with that blue. And same thing that happened with Anish Kapoor. Stuart Semple decided he wanted to go on this campaign against Yves Klein and replicate the blue. He actually just got in trouble for that. He did get sued. And so he replicated the blue. But the funny thing is, his packaging mimicked Calvin Klein's, and Calvin Klein company didn't do anything to him. One would think that you have this packaging that looks like this world-renowned like clothing brand, like they come after him. No, probably because it's not what they do. Right? He's not trying to sell clothing. But Yves Klein, his estate, they came after this guy, so I don't think he'll be selling that paint for too much longer. Same thing with another color he made. He actually came up with a Tiffany blue. And I was fortunate enough to be able to still buy that before he had to take it off his website. That Tiffany blue looks just like the box.
Oh.
Looks just like the box. It is a pretty, pretty color. So I like to try different things. And then there's another brand. What's this one called? Sennelier. Sennelier was actually a pastel artist, and the brand Sennelier started, I believe, with pastels, but they have some paints that were like really highly pigmented, ultra saturated colors. I stopped using them because they dry way too quickly. It's like almost as soon as you put the paint on the canvas, and that was just a little too much for me. But I did like the vibrance of the colors and the selection of the colors, because there's so many pigments that they use. There's probably like 100 different colors that they had.
Those are pretty good looking blinds.
Thank you. And I stuck to it. Only 4 brushes. I brought my whole arsenal out here. I actually have another one of these things full of brushes, but they're my big mural brushes. I think a part of that is the contrast on the black.
Yeah.
I think it makes it
Well, I think it's
makes
the
it
heavy
show more.
body too, because if you put normal paint on top of black,
Mm-hmm.
the other, and you dilute it, especially if you use an extender,
Yeah.
the background is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed yours is pretty heavy, so maybe it's the heavy body, does that help that issue?
I don't know. I've never really explored it, to be honest. I just prefer heavy body. I just like it's just a certain viscosity that I like in my paint. I don't like it to be too runny. I don't like it to be too heavy.
When it's heavy body, it's more like an oil.
It is more like an oil. Yeah.
The thing I love about oil is when you start to mix it, it's really smooth and nice, and
Yeah.
it mixes. Acrylics, when they're too light, they don't mix as nicely.
And they start getting really
Heavier body
transparent and watery.
gives them a little something more,
Mm-hmm.
but they certainly have a greater effect in terms of drying.
Yeah.
And God only knows, when you're headed to a show, you can hang it out the window. And
Right,
it'll
right.
dry by the time you get
Well,
there.
even with with the acrylics, it dries in minutes. Like within 2 to 3 minutes, your paint that you put down is gonna be dry if you don't use any additives.
Yeah.
So that is a benefit, especially when you have to when you have to do what artists do and wait till the last minute. And you finish a piece, and then you got to take it wherever it's going. At least you know it's not gonna get on anything. It's not gonna get on anybody when you take it out.
I've never painted on black canvas. That's a relatively new thing.
Yeah,
the last
it's
few
a-
years, but
it's
it loo-
definitely
it's an
new.
interesting. I think we should all try that.
I definitely think
And then
it's a
bring
new
them
thing.
in.
I haven't seen it much before.
You have about 10 minutes.
Okay.
If you're colorblind, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's like scratchboard instead of drawing on a white paper, I mean,
The
it's.
fellow I know.
Right.
The fellow I know, I think he's colorblind because he does scratchboard, okay? Everything's scratchboard, and he does not like when you criticize. But then he comes and
Is
tells
anybody
me,
else in here that likes to work in acrylic?
"Focus, I do, okay?" And I told him that.
No,
he
you're
needs to stop.
oil, watercolor,
Oil.
more traditional.
I'm a mixed media guy, so I work in a little bit of everything.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I found acrylics in college, but I couldn't use them in class. The teacher wanted me to do oils, so it's not that I can't use oil. I can oil paint. It's just it's the patience thing.
For me, I mean, I love oil, but the drying time, it's the drying time.
That's the problem for me. I just don't like waiting for my paint to dry.
So instead of putting it in the lines, you take away to paint the lines.
Instead of painting it, you remove.
But I have marvelous respect for people who do oil and can,
Well, I think that
I just
I
can't
think
do it.
oil has a better look because it has there's a certain richness to an oil painting that you cannot get with any other medium. You can get close, but you're gonna know it's not oil.
Right.
And there's a certain buttery softness to
Yes.
the texture of paint. It's just the drying time. That's the only thing I don't like about it. But I probably should paint in oil given the way that I paint. But the way that my schedule is set up, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
No.
Some of the oil painters that have been here, they'll tell you they're working on 2 and 3 different ones at the same time.
Yeah, people work on
Then
multiple.
they'll stop, then
Yep.
they'll.
My mentor is like that. He's got like 4 pieces going all at the same time. And he likes to apply the paint really thick. So he's doing the palette knife and all that.
Oh, yeah.
He's going in. So you know how long that's going to take. Yeah, that guy's got the patience of a saint.
It's in here. And it's in that cast. Yes, Kathy, this is it, she's one of, it's in, scratchboard, she's one of the, if you've never tried it and you wanna do it, sign up. Like guarantee
You
you
can
get it.
close it out, Andre.
Okay.
And we'll let people come up and take a look at some of those
It's
metallics.
been fun painting for y'all today.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate you allowing me to do this.
Okay, if you wanna come up and look at the metallics or check any of those names, you can.